Today we're going to a Gray Matters conference, which is a foundation that raises mental health awareness. I wanted to find ways to help the community and also better my own mental health. It was a nice sunny day downtown, and I hope you enjoy.
Moves me, and it's okay to cry. I cry all the time. Not in front of my clients, but like when I drive home sometimes, and it's okay. It's a vent. It's a release. It's how we get in touch with the reality around us and get in touch with ourselves, and kind of serves as a sort of like a poke that tells you to do some self-reflection, see what it means. So before I get started, I'd like to thank Haley and Carrie and the rest of the board at the Gray Matters Collective for the opportunity to face my fear of public speaking and address such a wonderful group of people who share my passion for mental health advocacy. I'd also like to thank my wife Ashley for her love, support, and her patience with my endless shenanigans. You want to stand up, babe? No. My parents are here too, and I'd like to thank them for teaching me and showing me how to be a good human being despite my best efforts to prove otherwise when I was growing up. And to my friends who are here to support me, thank you as well. I can't share our nickname for them, too many kids. But tonight I'd like to raise awareness of the mental health field, something that you all may not be aware of, but you are definitely a part of it. This field is vast and ranges from psychologists and psychiatrists to research scientists, and all the way down to volunteers at nonprofit organizations like NAMI and the Gray Matters Collective. It's also a relatively new field. While some people may see space as the final frontier, I'd wager that we know more about space than we currently do about human psychology. We know that childhood experiences affect how we function as adults. We know that traumatic experiences physically change our brains. We also know that our experiences with others that talking about our experiences with others can help alleviate our symptoms and change our behaviors. If relationships can be damaging, they can also be healing. That's one of my favorite sayings. We know that the basis for behavior isn't nature versus nurture, but nature and nurture. The strongest predictor of illness prognosis is a person's support network. We're only as strong as those around us. And the strongest predictor of treatment success in therapy is the therapeutic relationship between the client and the therapist. As members and leaders of the Gray Matters Collective, you're all acting as support systems for each other and for your communities as well. That's the cool part. It's not just, you're not tasked with just fixing the community. It's not about the community. It's one person at a time. It's the person that's sitting in front of you that is the most important person on the planet in that moment. And that's what you all do. And that's just, seeing all your faces is just super exciting. And how many groups now? 23?
Yeah, I believe so.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We've got a few more in the 4 schools in talks right now.
4 more in the hopper, all right. So you're not charged with the responsibility of treating mental illness, but to see each other and to validate your experiences. You learn from one another and you share your lessons with each other, and even with people who may not be members. That's how you change a community. That's how you change a culture. From one person at a time. It's never a big thing. Change has to start at an individual level, and that's what you guys are doing. When I look at you, I do see the future of mental health treatment in America, and it gives me hope. For now, though, let's visit the past to see how far we've come as a field. So May has been designated Mental Health Awareness Month and has been since 1949. And its founding represents a significant change in how we view mental health as a society. The intention was to raise public awareness of mental illness, eliminate stigma for mental health, share information about treatments, and to celebrate recovery. Considering the fact, though, that female hysteria was something that was a valid diagnosis and was being treated all the way up until the 80s, I think it'd be pretty wild to see what sort of flyers and pamphlets they were passing around to raise awareness back in 1949. But talk therapy first became popular in the year 1900 with the publishing of Sigmund Freud's book, The Interpretation of Dreams. But it wasn't until the 1950s when Carl Rogers began advocating for client autonomy, the importance of genuineness, empathy, unconditional positive regard, and the therapeutic relationship between the client and the therapist in treatment. The first diagnostic and statistical manual wasn't published until 1952. And compared that with what we know today, it was straight trash. Everything in it was bad. But it was a start. 52 years passed since talk therapy began before they created a systematic way of diagnosing mental illness in a way that would be supposedly able to be replicated from clinician to clinician. And it's just wild how far we've come since then and how slow that progress was, 52 years. Contrast that with the development of flight. The first flight performed by the Wright brothers was in 1903, and by 1969, we put humans on the moon and brought them home. I believe the biggest explanation for why we've been able to come so far so quickly with flight is because there wasn't a stigma associated with flight. The more we learned about it, the more excited we got, the more we wanted to push the envelope. Pilots are also largely respected and admired by most people for their bravery and for their skill. I wonder where we would be as a people if we viewed those living with mental illness with the same awe and, now I'm gonna get emotional, with the same awe and admiration that we show pilots. Not only do we have gaps in our understanding of mental illness, the public also doesn't seem to know much about therapists. Most of what they know, they've learned on TV shows and in movies. When asked to describe a therapist, many people would picture a bearded man in a band sweater vest, maybe doodling on a notepad with the patient sitting on the couch talking about their childhood. Most therapists are women, and I can't grow a beard. Even if I could, my wife wouldn't let me. It would look really bad. When I go to events, I must admit that telling people that I'm a therapist is a little bit painful. There are 3 responses I usually get. 1, the person asks me if I'm analyzing them in the moment, and I respond by saying, "Where should I send the bill?" The second will take it as an invitation to corner me and to trauma dump, which I get, and I totally appreciate the respect that they have for people in my field to feel comfortable to do that, but a party isn't the time or place to do such things. The third's more interesting. They seem to look for clarification first. So the first thing they say is, "Oh, you mean like a physical therapist?" And you can see the hope in their eyes that I'm gonna say, "Yeah, physical therapist." When I say, "No, I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor," you just see them shrink and then they just look for some sort of excuse to leave. So yeah. And is that a thing? Like, has anybody ever met a physical therapist that says, "Oh, I'm a therapist"? No, I didn't. Yeah, so it's not just me. Good. So I guess my point with that is that stigma against mental illness is still so heavily ingrained in our society that even those involved in the treatment of mental illness are just treated with misunderstanding and malice. I find that most people also believe that therapists fix people. That's called a vasectomy. For mental health. It's not us who determines that. We help set the stage that allows the client to make that determination themselves. So there's that word again, though, awareness, raising that individual awareness. I'm really good with doing that individually, but like trying to do it to a whole group of people is like really intimidating. But being aware of strategies, techniques, and approaches in managing our mental health isn't enough to limit or to eliminate the stigma. We must be willing to act, whether it be to manage our own mental health or to support a friend or a loved one who is struggling, or to educate ourselves or others. We can't just know things without applying them and expect things to change. But by virtue of you all being here today, you are doing the vital work that needs to get done to eliminate the stigma. And I applaud you all for that. Most of you are all young and either graduating from high school soon, or maybe you have just graduated from high school, or you're getting ready to do so. But you're probably feeling the weight of the real world, like, pushing on your shoulders. Feeling that pressure to be fully grown adult, like the second you graduate. But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. You don't have to know everything when you graduate. No one ever does. I'm almost 40, and I love that I don't know everything. Even if life can be scary and chaotic from time to time, I trust those around me. I've built a very well-crafted support group and borrowed from my wife. Her friends are awesome too. Only allow those in your life that bring you value, and getting rid of those that hold you back or cut you down. That's one of the best things that you can do for yourself. Because when you know that your circle is solid, you don't have to worry about anything. You know you're going to be safe. Eventually. And if you're sitting here today and don't believe you have a person in your life like that, come find me after this. I hope you'll consider continuing this fight, at least in some sort of capacity. Though I must admit, I would really love for some of you to come up to me after this and ask me how to become a therapist. It is a career in high demand and predicted to be one of the last fields to be lost to automation. So take that, ChatGPT. The job security is sadly fantastic. There will never be an end to human suffering. So there will always be a need for professionals willing to sit with someone through it. It pays well, even if you don't have a doctorate degree. There's also a whole lot of populations in clinical areas you could choose to specialize in, such as children, adolescents, the elderly, mood disorders, psychotic disorders, personality disorders, or eating disorders. Or you can just practice as a generalist like I do. You can choose to work for an agency or a private practice, or you can do what I did and build your own. I learned everything I needed to set up my practice through the University of Google. If you go to, it sounds scary, I know. But when you go to college and you're learning how to do the research studies and how to evaluate data and evidence and sources, that's the basic building skill or building block that you need to be able to use the internet wisely, to find good information and separate the good from the bad, and then just do what you want with it. But you can do that. And if you have trouble, ask me. I'll totally help you. And if social justice is something you're passionate about, our code of ethics mandates that we advocate for our clients and our communities through volunteer work or through crafting changes to public policy at the local, state, or even federal levels. So the Gray Matters Collective treats every month like Mental Health Awareness Month, and I did not see the sign before I finished writing that line, so that's pretty cool. And with your continued efforts, everyone else will too, eventually. Perhaps then we'll no longer need a designated month to remind everyone that we belong, that we are seen, we are heard, we are loved, and we matter. You matter. Thank you.
So I think we can all agree on one thing for the importance is that realizing that nobody in this room is alone, ever. And we all have each other to lean on, we all have each other to talk to. So the big importance is that knowing when you feel alone, you aren't. For my personal, experience and perspective, not super long ago, I had just this really long period of time where it was a lot of self-doubt and talking myself down, locking myself out from people, and just a lot of issues that I had in my past that finally caught up to me that I, just started blaming myself for. So when I started getting more involved with the Gray Matters and, talking to more of my friends that were involved in it, it really hit a place in me where I realized that there were other people that were like me at the same time, where they're going through things and they're going through a lot of stuff that they don't understand why they're going through, but they realized that they had other people to lean on and that they weren't by themselves. So me understanding that in other people kind of reflected back to me knowing that I had other people to lean on and that I'd found a community where I felt welcomed and felt loved by other people. So back to the quote of saying you aren't alone was kind of the biggest deal sealer for me, was knowing that I had a full community of people that were there for me, and I did my best to be there for them in return. So that's what I would say.
For me, mental health is important because I remember the first time Haley came and talked to our school, she said, just like your physical health, your mental health is important. And for me, I tend to push my mental health down. I don't focus on that as much, but when I don't, I struggle a lot more. So when we focus on the struggles that we have mentally, you can see that that it is important, and it's just as important as if you get a cut on your leg. So it shouldn't go unnoticed, and you're not alone, and it's okay to struggle. You just gotta feel it. It's okay to feel.
Okay, that's kind of loud. Thanks, Jake. So I remember when Haley came to our school, we were talking about this a little bit ago, but I just remember she came and talked to us, and it was great, like always. And I remember she was like, oh, like there was a school that had a bunch of boys laughing in the background, and then Amelia and I look at each other and we're like, that's our school she's talking about. And we talked, and we were just like, that's because the boys were uncomfortable with the situation, and they were uncomfortable facing their emotions. And it kind of spoke volumes that as a community, we need to stand together and not run away from our emotions, but confront them and accept them and feel, because people just need to understand that it's okay to feel. So just spreading that message in our school, it's really important to me.
Mental health is important to me because it is the one thing that all people on this earth share. It's universal. But I have seen so many of my parents, my friends, my siblings, anyone that I know, they struggle with it, but a lot don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge that something is wrong. So it's important to me that we recognize those things so that way we can find ways to help each other. I've seen so many students in my school, even especially today when SAT scores came out, that they're pressured, they feel stressed, they're worried about their scores and comparing themselves to others. People like that need support too, and they need to know that their mental health is important to them, that no matter what they get on all of these tests and their scores, they're still just as worthy as anyone else.
Mental health is important because I feel, me personally, when I feel my mental health decline, I feel like everything else declines. So whether it's performance in school or sports or whatever, but I feel like everything else kind of gets cloudy and I can't concentrate on the little things to do those right. So having good mental health and having people with you to walk you through that is very important, especially in today's world with social media being as negative as it is, and people like to bring other people down more than up. So, yeah.
Okay, so there are a lot of reasons why mental health is important to me, and one of the main reasons why mental health has become so important is because, so I go to Allman, and we do not have a Gray Matters chapter, and I do not believe that there is one Allman student in this whole building. And to me, that is so, so sad. I've gone to school with these people my whole life, and when I tell you they are some of the most upset, sad, just like mentally just suffering so much, and it is so sad. I don't have very many friends at Allman, and this is why I love these events so much, because the people at Allman, they do not, like, no, they're just very stubborn to the idea, like she said earlier, like those who don't, like, want to accept the message, they don't want to confront their problems. I was kind of worried about getting a Gray Matters into Allman just because of, I know these people and I know that they're so extremely stubborn, and I am stubborn enough to get a chapter into Allman because these people need it so much. And I've seen the way that I can change. My friends have told me that they have seen a physical change just in the way I walk down the hallways, just because of how happy I seem. And I believe that that is because of this community where I feel like I am loved. And I just feel so surrounded by these people, and I have a community where I can go and share my emotions that I feel nobody else at Allman has ever experienced. So, yeah.
Hey Mary, do you want to hear something really cool? We're getting a Gray Matters chapter at Allman. Has the Gray Matters Collective impacted you personally, or what have you learned from it?
It's impacted me personally because it gives me a big community of people to relate to, and I feel like that's really important when it comes to mental health, is relating to people, because when you're alone, you can't feel like you can't relate to people. It's really tough to go through it alone. But having a group of people to relate to, whether like one person to 1,000 people, just makes it so much easier to get through the suck. So.
The Gray Matters has impacted me because I've been that person in the suck. I've been like Haley, I've been where she's at in my deepest, darkest times, but I've had the Gray Matters to turn to, I've had Haley to turn to, and everyone else here, and it's just given me a place for my words to be heard, to share my experiences, and do my best to help others, but make sure I'm helping myself too.
I feel like just Gray Matters has kind of provided a community for me in our school and outside of our school. As you can see, like, I'm friends with everyone on this panel and like all these people. Like, I kept telling everyone I saw, I was like, it's like I'm surrounded by all my best friends here. Like, this is great. So it's just provided like a community of me, and I've formed like relationships that I have never, like strong relationships that I haven't been able to form in the past at our school, that I've been able to really nurture in this space. And yeah.
I no longer let my mental struggles consume me as much as I did. I have a community where everyone shares the same struggles that there might not be at the same time, but every Wednesday when I go to Rocky and I'm in that room, it's just like a switch is flipped. Like, I just get so happy because the community that we've built there. So that's for me.
So kind of like I said earlier, where I had a very long period of time where I kind of just sheltered myself, and you know, you build your walls up so high and you can't see the top of them. And that's where a lot of the bad things for me started rolling in, and that's where I hit a very low point. So getting like introduced to the chapter at Geneseo, being given multiple opportunities to be a leader, help out at events, and to speak at the school, it kind of helped those walls just kind of start tumbling down little by little, to the point where, kind of like Elena said, every time you walk in the room now, it's not the fake face anymore. It's just you and everybody else in the room that's going through the same stuff. So.
kind of how I mentioned earlier, I do not have very many friends at Almond, or at least not close friends that I would share almost any of this personal stuff with, because let's be honest, they probably would not take it seriously. Like, it's just kind of how I feel around them. So having a Gray Matters community where I have people open to talk about their feelings and like just tell me that I'm not alone in my struggles, because like I don't think I would find people like this anywhere else that are just so open and so able to share their feelings and make everybody feel loved. So.
All right, so this will be are nearing the end here. From your perspective, and I'm very excited to hear this, so be honest. From your perspective, do you think mental health is getting better or worse in your generation today?
In my senior English class, I read an essay about the effects of social media on teenagers, and that kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of things. So I would say mental health in teenagers, well, not just teenagers, but anyone in this generation is definitely getting worse, especially since 2020. I feel like it's gotten higher in terms of mental health stuff in people. And but I think the stigma around it is changing. I feel like it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's okay to not be okay, as you've heard many times. Because I feel when we started the Riverdale chapter, I felt like a lot more people were a lot more open to how people felt, like truly felt, and we're just like making fun of them because of stuff going on in their lives. They were more open with hearing what they had to say. So I think mental health is at it's worsening right now, but I feel like with more Great Matters chapters opening up, with people being more open, it'll start getting better for generations to come.
Me personally, just around our area especially, it's definitely getting worse, but we're acknowledging it more. So it's just going to be a constant process, something we're always going to have to take into account and just work to continue building up over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know, I think it is getting worse, but also us talking about it and being here tonight is taking steps in the right direction. And I don't view this, what we do in our schools, as a solution to everyone's problems, but more of a shoulder to lean on when we're going through those hard times in school, outside of school, at home. So yeah, it's just being that shoulder for your peers to lean on has really been impactful and powerful to all the schools around the Quad Cities.
I definitely agree with what everyone said. It's getting worse, but the stigma I feel like is declining. I was talking to a member from my chapter at work this weekend, and she told me how much she looks forward to the meetings, and that for me was like a step in the right direction, and it just makes me happy to know that people from my school and other schools are so excited to have these weekly, I don't know how it works at other guys' chapters, but for us weekly to come and just advocate mental health. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
I'd say around our area, for our generation, it has been getting worse. I feel like the normal nowadays for a lot of people is to kind of just hide behind the closed doors, not really show much emotion to, the bad side of things. But I think with the meetings that we're doing, it's having an impact on people, and you can see it. So kind of like everyone else was saying, it is a step in the right direction. It's, walking into the room for meetings with a bunch of people who aren't there to, be fixed, but to be changed and to allow change and to change others as well. It's kind of like anything. Light will always beat out the darkness. That's just what happens. And I think with situations like this, the side of talking about what is wrong and opening up to people is the light that beats out the darkness of sitting in the quiet behind the closed doors. Because you're sitting in a dark room, once you open the doors, you're lying blinded. So.
because Braden's really good at this. But I agree with everybody else in this panel, and I don't think I'm going to say much different than what they have said, but I definitely agree that mental health around the world, or at least around our nation, is declining. And I even see some videos on TikTok where people will talk about like their mental health and how they're just so depressed and how like they're going to like kill themselves, and they just think it as a joke. And mental health is not taken seriously, especially in our generation. It's not, I mean, obviously there are groups like the Gray Matters that allow us to take our mental health seriously, but a good population of our teenagers in our generation think mental health is a joke and kind of make it their personality that they have bad mental health and it's just what it is. But I believe if we have more groups like this and if we continue to spread, that we can change that.
Yeah, that's a huge line, romanticization versus normalization. And I think what you're saying, Mary, which was so beautifully said, is we're trying to normalize the conversation, which is so important. And Braden, you talked about, and some of you also as well, talked about the power of community that you feel. And there's a statistic that says if I stand at the base of a mountain that I'm about to climb, and this past weekend I literally climbed the Ruby Mountain, so I can speak to this. But I didn't actually climb it. But if I stood at the base of a mountain by myself, looking at that mountain, my brain perceives that mountain to be 30% steeper than if I'm going to climb it standing next to someone who's going to climb it with me. So events like this, community, it is real because our brains are more resilient when we're together. And so it's a beautiful thing when you think about it, the power of community, and you all are all doing that as students. So I want to personally thank you. Is there anything else that any of you want to add before we close? Anything else? No? Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Please give them a huge round of applause.
I still hear about the impact that it had on people in the audience last year today. And I'm not going to share that story with you again, but I'm standing up here today because I'm very proud to be a part of this organization. Haley asked me many years ago when she first started the journey on making the Gray Matters Collective an actual 501c3. I have quite a little bit of experience in the 501c3 world. So she asked me to be a part and to help it get launched, and it's just been a very huge honor to me to be part of all of that and to watch the growth that this organization that was started by a young woman in college battling her own demons and what it's done in this room and beyond. I said it to Haley at one of our first board meetings of 2023. I think 2023 is the year of the Gray Matters Collective. I get a little stressed every once in a while, so I just want to take a moment to thank all of our vendors. I hope that you will all visit them on your way out if you haven't already. But I did want to take a moment to recognize a very special little girl. Her mom is my new best friend. That's an inside joke. She has put a lot of work. Her name is Camilla, and she's one of our board members' daughters. And she came up with the idea of having a vendor table and sell little things like this little stress ball that she handmade with balloons and rice. I bought one of everything at that table, actually multiples of everything at that table. And I suggest that if you're stressed out a little bit, if you don't have a stress ball, this is the best one I've ever experienced. And to know that a little 9-year-old girl made it, it's pretty cool. She supports her mama, and her mama supports the Gray Matters, and I think that that's very cool. So can we please applaud all of our vendors and Camilla. Like I said, I'm very proud to be a part of this organization, and I want to challenge you in this room today. We're going to be introducing something new for the school chapters, and that is giving everyone the opportunity to actually financially back a school chapter. They all are a little bit different. They're all different sizes. but that doesn't make them any less important than any of the others. So my personal connection to this is, I have 3 grown children. I'm nearly 60, by the way, and I'm still nervous talking, and I'm still learning, and I love it every minute of every day. I have 3 grown children that are graduates from the Bettendorf High School. They went to the Bettendorf School District. Go Bulldogs. And I would have given anything for a chapter to have been available to my kids when they were in their high school years, all 3 of them. They're wonderfully successful kids now, but every single one of them went through mental health battles, mental health struggles, because they inherited it from me. But you know what? If there was a chapter available to them at that time, I mean, they're old, they're in their 30s. But if there had been a chapter available to them at that time, they would have not had to have struggled alone or have come to mom, and mom feeling so pathetically sorry for introducing this horrible disease to them. They would have had people like you that would have supported them, and they would have had that community that they needed so badly, that I think all of you need to really remember, and I know that you do, but never forget how important that is. And you always strive to be that community for somebody else. You know, someone said that we all suffer from mental health, and we do. I believe that. I think sometimes we can get caught up in what we're doing ourselves to really only recognize what we're going through, and it's always important, and it's easy for people that are dealing with mental health crisis to realize that I've got to be there for somebody else. But it's hard when you're going through your own mental crisis. So take a moment and just reach out to someone completely random. Hey, how are you today? It doesn't even have to be somebody in your school's chapter. Just do that, and you'll be surprised at where that goes. And lastly, I just wanted to address what you guys said about it's worsening. I'd like to phrase that a little differently. I think awareness is growing rapidly. So what we might view as worse is it's just in our face a lot more, and I think that needs to be applauded. And you guys are doing this, and I hope all of the graduating seniors here today go on to introduce this to their colleges if they don't already have it there. I challenge you to do that. But my big challenge to you about our school chapter backing, financial backing, is we need the support. You know, we're dealing with this with our own resources. And a young 501c3 nonprofit organization doesn't have a lot of resources. We're very lucky that we've had some fundraisers, and we have a lot of generous people in this room, especially our Mover and Shaker award winner, and that have been very generous. So I'm looking for anybody in this room. Well, actually, let me start with this. My husband and I and the entire Woodall family are going to support the Bettendorf chapter for the year 2023-2024 in the amount of $500. So I just challenge anybody in this room, if you have a connection with the school, and here's the easy thing about it, you don't have to do it on your own. You know, $500, get 10 people to throw in $50, it's easy, you know? And if you want to do that, I would ask for you to come and see me, and I'll get you set up for it. But I would like to ask Carrie if she would join me up here. Oh. You guys, you students out there get the luxury of seeing Haley all the time. We talk to her a lot, and you know, I don't know all the real work, and I'm not going to sit here and try to claim that I do of what the school chapters are doing, but I know you guys are doing great things. And me, Carrie, the other board members to get in this room tonight, we're just trying to guide the way to make this a sustainable organization so that you can continue doing what you're doing at your schools. But I think it's important to recognize the leader of all of this. And so we just want to say thank you to Haley.
And we also got you a gift card to get your nails done. But I don't have it with me because I left it at work. But we have that for you. We're always asking Haley, what do you need? Can we help you? Can we help you? And you don't really delegate that well. You like to you like to take it on yourself. But and I think some of you guys are laughing because you know that about her. She does take on so much, and I think we do need to recognize her.